Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another live lesson, and today we're going to look at IELTS Task 1 Academic Writing, and we're going to give you a checklist of things that you need to do in order to improve your score. So this is a follow-on from Wednesday's lesson. So 2 days ago I made a lesson showing you the six steps that you need to take in order to get a good score in Task 1 Academic, and the first step was understanding the marking criteria, understanding what the examiners are looking for. And I told you that I was going to make a whole lesson on the marking criteria because it takes a long time, it's a little bit complex. So this is that lesson. So we're going to teach you exactly what all of this means. So if you look at the official marking criteria, you can go on to Google and find this. There's a public version. IELTS is very open about this and shows you exactly what it means to get a Band 9, Band 8, Band 7, Band 6, Band 5. But the problem with this is it's full of language that is a little bit opaque. Students don't normally understand what these things mean, and if you don't understand what they mean, then you can't apply them in the real test. So what we're going to do, instead of looking at this and basically trying to translate it for you, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 4 key areas. So task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, which is just a fancy name for vocabulary, and grammatical range and accuracy, which is just a fancy name for grammar. We're going to look at each of these, and instead of looking at the marking criteria, I've interpreted the marking criteria, and I'm going to give you just a checklist of things to do, making it really simple and easy for you to apply these on test day and during your preparation. Learn how to do these things, and then you don't have to really worry about trying to interpret all of these yourself. So let's get into it. So task achievement. So there are 5 key things that you need to be thinking about when it comes to task achievement. Clear and effective overview. This is probably the most important thing out of your whole Task 1 academic response. By the way, if you're looking for general training, go look at our YouTube channel, or you can have a look at our website, IELTS Advantage. This is just for academic. You'll be able to find anything you need for IELTS. All free information is there. This is just academic. So you really need to learn how to write a clear and effective overview. And we've got other free lessons that will show you how to do that. But it's really about practice. You need to learn how to write an overview, practice looking at the data, finding the key features, writing a clear overview, and get some feedback on it. It is really, really, really important. Just forget about basically everything else until you have mastered that, because it doesn't matter if you write a really good introduction, or your details paragraphs are good, or your vocabulary is good, or your grammar is good. If you don't know how to write an overview, then you're going to be in trouble. So focus on that first. All of the key features are covered. So when you're looking at the data, that could be a bar chart or a pie chart, or could even be a map or a process. Have you picked out the most important information or data, the key features, and covered those in your overview and in your details paragraphs? Is there enough detail or too much detail? I know that sounds like you must be like, oh, it's so difficult, like not enough or too much. But the thing to remember here is, for most students, it will be too much. So the task for academic task 1 is not write everything that you see. This is the problem that most students do. What they do is they look at the data and they write about every single point. It's not about doing that. It's about discussing the key features, the most important data. So it's about understanding what the key features are and writing about the most important data, not everything. Next, only included things on the paper. You're not going to give your opinion. You're not going to write about anything that's not on the paper, not on that piece of paper in front of you. Only write about those things. Don't introduce your own knowledge. Don't introduce your opinion. It's only just write what you see. So do that only. That's a big one that we see a lot of. People interpret the data and add their own things into it. Just the task is not to do that. Task 2, include as much of your opinion and your ideas as you want. That's what task 2 is for. Task 1, just write exactly what you see and nothing else. And is the information or the data accurate? So when you are reporting on the line graph or the bar chart or the map or whatever it is, is what you are writing about actually accurate? Is it factually accurate? Because that is part of the task, seeing what the actual data is and putting it on paper accurately. So if you can do those 5 things, then you're well on your way to improving your score and getting the score that you need. You're probably going to have to learn how to do those things and practice how to do those things in more detail, but that's the checklist that you should be applying. Now let's look at coherence and cohesion. So coherence, what does that mean? Basically it means when someone looks at it, is your report clear? Cohesion refers to how things are organized, are your ideas and your sentences and parts of sentences linked together properly. It doesn't just mean linking words. A big misinterpretation, a lot of people think that coherence and cohesion just means paragraphing and using lots of linking words. It doesn't mean that. Let's look at it in a little bit more detail. So is your data and your information, your overall report, organized in a way that is clear and is easy to understand? So when you're looking at the data, and this is why I said in the first lesson that this is as much a thinking task as it is a writing task. You do all your thinking during your planning, and part of your thinking is, how can I organize this data so that it is easy for the reader? Put yourself in the reader's shoes. Have sympathy for the person who's reading this. And if you were them, how would you organize the data to make it easy for them to understand? Because why are we writing a report? We're writing a report so that somebody can read it and understand it clearly. And that's what you should be thinking about when you're organizing all the information. And that doesn't just refer to paragraphing. Cohesive devices are accurate, so you're using them correctly, and appropriate. So you're not using them in every single sentence. That is not what coherence and cohesion means. It doesn't mean using, therefore and moreover, like every single or multiple times in a sentence. You don't get extra marks for writing lots of cohesive devices. You use cohesive devices accurately and appropriately. A good way to think about it is, if you are writing in your native language, how would you use cohesive devices or linking words? Would you put them in every single sentence? Probably not. When you're writing naturally, you only use them when they're appropriate to be used, and you use them correctly. So think about it that way. Is your paragraphing clear? Do you have a clear introduction, your details paragraphs, your overview? We talked about how to structure your essay in the lesson from Wednesday, so check that one out. But your paragraphing should be clear. Give the examiner a break and just skip a line or skip even 2 lines in between each paragraph and make it super clear where one paragraph ends and the next begins. And use referencing effectively. You're going to have to reference different data and different things within the data or the diagram or the map. So do you know how to use referencing clearly and accurately and effectively? So lexical resource, just a fancy word for vocabulary. Is your vocabulary accurate? All right, is meaning accurate in particular? Do you know how to use these words effectively? Students get in all sorts of trouble here when they memorize vocabulary. It's not a memorization test. It's not a test of how many big words did you memorize and then just put them into your essay. As if you don't know what the words mean, they're not going to be accurate. All right, if you don't know how to use that word within a sentence, it's not going to be accurate. So only use words that you're 100% sure about what they mean and where they go in the sentence and how they operate in the sentence. Good use of collocations. Look up what collocations are, and during your process of learning new vocabulary, note down collocations. When you see a new word, note down how they are. Check your collocations during the test and when you're checking your work at the end. Spelling is taken into account. So again, this is a problem if you're memorizing lots of vocabulary or using vocabulary that you're not 100% sure about. It's very likely that the spelling is going to be wrong. So if the meaning is wrong and the spelling is wrong and the collocations are wrong, you might think that by using these big words or band 9 words or high-level words that you're improving your lexical resource score. You're probably lowering it if these things are a problem. And is your range of vocabulary wide enough to complete the task? I've put to complete the task in red here for a very good reason. So the examiner is not going to look at your report, and if you're one of these people that has gone onto a website and downloaded a list of band 9 vocabulary, or your teacher gives you a list of high-level vocabulary, it's not a test of how many of these words can you just insert into your report. The most important thing is that you complete the task, that you look at the data and report the data clearly. You're using vocabulary as a tool to help you report the data clearly. Is your vocabulary wide enough to do that? For most people who are looking for like a band 7, band 8, their vocabulary is normally wide enough already. Where they get into trouble is they try too hard. So the analogy I always use is, like, if you go to the gym and you try and lift weights that are, like, let's say you can only lift 50 kilograms, but you try and lift 100 kilograms, you're going to drop the weight on your head and you'll be in all sorts of trouble. Use the vocabulary that you have so that you minimize mistakes. In the comments, people are probably saying, oh, but I need to use high-level vocabulary in order to get a high score. You don't. You need to use a range of vocabulary to help you clearly answer the question, and it should be accurate, your collocation should be good, and your spelling should be accurate. If you don't believe me, go and look at the official marking criteria. Grammatical range and accuracy, so just a fancy way of saying grammar. Most important thing when it comes to grammar, again, there's a balance between range and accuracy. The most important thing for most students is accuracy, whereas what most people do is the opposite. They try and use lots of fancy vocabulary, fancy structures, fancy tenses that really don't help them actually answer the question, and they're not comfortable using, and they make lots of mistakes. If you make lots of mistakes, you're going to get a low mark for grammar. That's a fact. The more error-free sentences you have, the fewer mistakes that you have, the higher your score. That's how it works. So if you're using grammar and vocabulary that you don't know how to use, you're going to get a lower score. So work on improving the number of mistakes, fixing as many mistakes as possible. A great way of doing that is figure out what the most common grammar error is in your task 1. So that could be prepositions, it could be articles, it could be tenses, it could be punctuation, and focus on that first, because you are going to remove so many mistakes by focusing on the area that you struggle with the most. Punctuation is also very important for task 1 academic. And do you have a wide enough range of tenses and structures to clearly report the data or the information? It doesn't say, have you used as many different tenses and structures as possible? That's not what it says. You're writing like between 150 and 200 words. There's no way that you can use every single structure and every single tense. That's not what it's asking you to do. So for example, tense, you might see a bar chart and it might only show stuff in the future or stuff in the past. So many students come in and they try and use like past simple, past perfect, present simple, present perfect continuous, will plus going to, the first conditional, second conditional, third conditional. Like, why are you doing this? Like, oh, my teacher told me that I need to use as many tenses and structures as possible. No, that's not what it's about. Would you ever do that in real life? Would you ever write an email to someone and try and use like the first, third, and zero conditional all in one sentence? No, you wouldn't. That'd be crazy. You just use the tenses and the structures that are appropriate to use in the circumstances. If you're writing about past data, guess what tense you're going to use. If you're writing about the future, guess what you're going to use. Just use the data to inform which tenses and which structures you're going to use. And if you do that and just keep it simple and focus on accuracy, your grammar is really, really going to improve. So that's it. That's a checklist of everything that you need so that you don't get confused and bogged down in what all of this means. Basically what I've done is just put everything that you need into those checklists so you don't really have to worry about this too much. If you need more help, there's a few things that you can do. You can go to our website and you can check out here task 1, task 2, speaking, reading, listening, vocabulary. You can check out here, we have a little wizard that you can use in order to find what you need. We have all of our success stories. So for example, if you click into here, we have more success stories than any other course in the world. So you can have a look there, or you can just have a browse and check out everything that you need on the website, IELTSadvantage.com. It's all free and you'll get all the information you need there. If you want to work with us personally, or if you have a question, you can send us an email, chris@IELTSadvantage.com. Or if you're worried about something or you're really struggling, check out the website, try and find the answer yourself, and then if you really do need help, send us an email, chris@IELTSadvantage.com. We answer every single email that people send us, so it'll either be me or one of the team here will help you out, chris@IELTSadvantage.com, or our website, IELTSadvantage.com. Have a great weekend, guys, and good luck to any of you doing the test tomorrow, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.